In today's show, Justin Verrierr from The Ringer joins the program, and we check in on the Blazers after 18 games. Deni, Shay, and the rest of the gang, welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program, we are joined by a returning guest to the program, my seatmate on press row from The Ringer. You've heard him on group chat, dropping Sundays and Wednesdays. It's Justin Verrierr. JV, how you doing?
I'm good, man. That song, the intro song, just always gets me so hyped. Just quite a banger you got.
I know you always you get up for these. That first 60 seconds, nobody locks in more than Justin when guessing on the program. So the Blazers are 18 games into the season. They're 8-10. Let's just start with the big picture stuff. We're going to do a temperature check today, check in on everything that's sort of where they are and what we think of them so far this season. I know technically, Justin, you're supposed to wait till 20 games to make your bigs, but we're gonna jump ahead, right? We're just gonna go ahead and do it. What do you think? 18 games in. What are your sort of big picture? Are the Blazers surprising in any way? Where are they in your mind?
About what I expected. To be honest, I think we all got a little high based off of the early returns because it seemed like the sum of the parts was just going to play above the original expectations. It seemed like they were going to be in the play-in mix regardless. What they had really worked in a very pronounced way. You even saw it from game one where they were playing up to the competition, some of the best teams in the league, the Timberwolves, OKC, despite missing some guys, they won that game. But they seemed like a really feisty, competitive team, which is something to be proud of and something you can build on when guys start to come back. Unfortunately, injuries have struck, and you could say bad luck, certainly. But I think it did uncover something that we'd worried about going into the season, which is just like the depth. There is depth here. There are capable bodies, as we've seen. Chris Murray getting in there. That's like a guy deep in your rotation that a lot of teams don't have. Unfortunately, this is the team that needs to win based off the collective, just the guarding the entire length of the court. That's going to take a lot of guys. They don't have one superstar, so it's going to take a lot of offense by committee. And it's kind of borne out there where a couple guys go down and they kind of like sunk into this sort of soft middle. But luckily the West is kind of there for the taking, at least after the top 4 to 5 to 6 teams. And so I think they're going to be in the mix, which is, I think, an encouraging sign if you're thinking long term.
Yeah, I if you thought at the beginning of the season, I thought they were very clearly one of the 11 best teams in the West. I thought there was 4 teams in the West just straight up worse than them. We're 18 games in. Those teams are probably worse than them. Utah and New Orleans and Sacramento, like those are not particularly good basketball teams. And so like where they are is about where I thought they would be. They're just a little bit worse on defense. You mentioned the injuries. That's a huge part of this, right? That's part of the story. Not having Scoot Henderson at all for this season. It sounds like he might be out till Christmas. Like he's closing in on missing 35 or 40 games to start the year, which really stinks. And now they're missing Drew Holiday, who's going to be out for another week or so. Shaedon Sharpe's missed 4 straight games. Obviously no Matisse Thybulle, no Blake Wesley. Although I do think it's a little bit much to be like, well, they lost Blake Wesley and that ruined their season. Like that's unfair to Blake Wesley. It's unfair to the Blazers. Injuries are kind of baked in. That's kind of how the NBA works. Like you're gonna have time when you miss guys, and so like part of it is saying like they're hurt. Well, yeah, that is the sort of unfortunate truth of the league is that depth matters. What is sort of like your defensively? They were really good at the end of last season. They are 20th on defense right now. Why do you think they have slipped? Or like to your eyes, where are they kind of leaving money on the table?
It's funny because even while they're rating in the good times, like so before the injuries really kind of cut the depth in half, I thought they were still pretty good defensively, and it felt like they're more of their identity than the offensive end, but the
Yeah.
numbers didn't bear out. I think part of that is just because they're running so much. It's just the up and down nature of every game they're going to be in. The rating didn't necessarily reflect who they were. I thought defense was pretty good, and you saw a lot of teams coming through town suggesting that, basically
Right.
acknowledging like this team is going to get into you. It's a hard game. It's no longer just a check mark on the schedule, and you can kind of move along. And then the injuries hit. And so I think it's kind of a misnomer. I would look more at the individual parts where, I would say by and large, most of the guys you're counting on have looked pretty sharp. And I think Klingon has, especially over the past 2 weeks or so, really looked engaged and looked like a force at the rim. He basically punked Miles Turner. And so like if Miles Turner is somewhere around like the league average you would expect defensively as a rim protector, I think that was a nice little marker of Klingon's progress. But overall, I don't really feel all that concerned about the defense, even though I know like they're, I think, in the bottom third of the league at this point. I think it's more just injuries and maybe just like the nature of the games they're playing.
Yeah, I also think they're better on defense than they've been. I think there was some sort of online narrative frustration with Tumani Kamara, and I was like, when I watch Tumani Kamara, he looks great on defense. I mean, it's and I think some of it is they were probably overextending with the pressure, and they've dialed that back a little bit. They're still a press team, but they're not. They started the year with sort of pressing more than any team in the 21st century, and maybe you can't pull that off. Maybe there's a reason that level is unsustainable, and they've dialed back a little bit, and they're playing more similar to last season, where they were still a team that pressured, picked up in the backcourt, but they're mostly just trying to slow you getting into your offense and play half-court defense, and I think that has really helped them look better on defense. I expect them to be an above-average defense by when all said and done by the end of the year. The other thing is the schedule has been a little bit hard by just opponent win percentage. The Blazers have had the second hardest schedule in the league, but that is just a nonsense way to look at things. When you play Oklahoma City with some of their dudes, Oklahoma City Thunder, is very different than the second time you play Oklahoma City Thunder with most of their dudes. So craftednba.com. It's a website that does, they don't explain their methodology, which I don't love, but they do have a baked in, like based on location of the game, opponent health, and whether you have a rest advantage or not. The Blazers does the fourth toughest schedule. And that to me sounds right. They've played some good teams and they've missed some stars, right? They've played the Luka-less Lakers a couple times. So, I think it'll come back to them a little bit because I think it'll get a little bit easier. But do you expect them to stay in this mix? Like, you mentioned that you would take it if you said, hey, they're going to be 9th or 10th in the West. Obviously, like the Clippers may eventually win some games, but who knows? It's hard to know whether the Grizzlies are coming or going. They're an impossible team to read, but there are some teams that maybe you thought would be better than the Blazers, or many thought would be better than the Blazers, who are below them in the standings. You think the Blazers can hang in this mix, and why or why not on that?
I think so, in part because of the motivation of some of the teams that they're probably kind of in the same range of. Like Dallas, I think, is a prime example.
Right.
Like all of a sudden, the season flipped on them, and they're already thinking about draft picks and long term and how to salvage like the next wave of the Cooper Flag era. Memphis is in disarray. Utah doesn't want to be there, and so you're really kind of zeroing in on a couple teams because you're right. It does feel like there is a real have and have some that is really forming within the top 10 there. So Thunder, Nuggets, Lakers, Rockets, I would say Spurs, clear cut. Like injuries are happening, but those teams still feel like a top 5. Wolves have been good, sort of, but not against good teams. I expect them to get better as the year goes on because if you look at the individual parts, like Randall's been awesome. McDaniel seems like he's taken a leap. There's some like defensive concerns when Gobert's not on there, but all in all, like I feel good about them, and I feel good about the Warriors. And so that, like overall, I guess, I mean, depends on the night, who's playing, etc. But like, so that's 7 teams. I wouldn't put a single team beyond that necessarily above the Blazers. So we're already talking about a play-in game, maybe 2 play-in games. And so the path is there to make the playoffs at this point. But, they've got to prove it. Not only do they have to get guys back, but those guys have to stay back,
Right. Yeah, and like they're an average team, right? They have a net rating of like -1.9. They're like exactly like a 500 level team. Those teams can break either way by a couple some bad health luck or just like a bad week. Like all of a sudden, oh dang, we're a 37 win team, or you win a couple more games. Oh, we're a 44 win team. So I think they're right there with. I think they'll be in the mix. I thought that they would be better on defense and that would kind of prop them up, but that hasn't been the case. And yet they're almost exactly where I would have guessed they would have been at this stage. So even if it hasn't, I guess the cake didn't rise the way I thought it would. But it still mostly looks like the same thing I was hoping to take out of the oven. Let's talk Deni Avdija. He's been all-star level good to begin this season. Let's talk about him in the second segment. Join us there, won't you? First, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Nothing beats being in the arena for an NBA basketball game. And this week, you can go see the Blazers on the low. You can get in right now on Game Time as I'm recording this. $33 to get in the building to see the San Antonio Spurs. $125 to sit downstairs in the 105 section in the end zone. That's a pretty good deal for an NBA game, and that's what Game Time does. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. So what I like about Game Time, whether you visit their website, gametime.co, or use their app, is that you pull up the Moda Center real quick. All the prices for the tickets are right there. Super clean, super fast. And what you see is what you get. So when you're browsing, you know that's exactly what you'll pay at checkout. There are no surprise fees. And it also just takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. And you can do that with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Today's show is also brought to you by the good folks at DUER. They're making the most comfortable jeans. That's what they do. If you see me out in the world, I'm probably rocking my performance denim from DUER. I got them in the relaxed taper. I got them in black, and they look good, so I can rock them to do all the things I need to rock on doing. So whether I need to look nice for work events or for dinner and drinks with friends, or I'm just lounging around the house, running errands and being comfy and cozy, I can do all that because DUER have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They give you all of the benefits of athletic wear, the stretchiness, the comfort, without looking like athletic wear. It's the best of both worlds, and that's because DUER are the pioneers of performance denim. And right now, you can go check DUER out. Check out the pants. I guarantee they'll be your go-to once you do try them on. And you can visit their store at 820 Northwest 23rd Avenue, right here in Portland on 23rd. And if you are making your first order there, use my promo code in store, Locked On Portland, to get 15% off. Or of course, you can visit them online at shopduer.com/locked-on Portland. That's shopduer.com/locked-on-Portland for 15% off. All right, still chatting here with Justin Verrierr of The Ringer. Catch him on group chat Sundays and Wednesdays throughout the season. Justin, I don't know that if Deni Avdija will make the All-Star team because I don't really understand how the All-Star voting is going to work, and it's very hard to do it. It's just a crowded race. But I do know that he has had All-Star level production this season. He was very good to end last year. Is this level a surprise to you?
Perhaps, or at the very least, I'm not disappointed that he didn't continue on and build upon the success of last season, because as we saw, last year was almost broken into not halves, but perhaps a third of the season was him finding his footing in Portland, in his organization, and just this new kind of conception of him as a player who could be a foundational player as opposed to what he was in Washington, which was a little bit more ancillary, someone who's a little bit more of a role player versus what he is now, which is more star in his role or star who can play a role, something along those lines. But he's just kind of built upon that to the point where I was thinking back to his Wizards days, and he's just a completely different player than he was 2 years ago, which is a pretty stark jump for a player who'd found success in a certain role. Then all of a sudden the Blazers kind of reconsider who he is, and all of a sudden he's just been that player. He definitely had some of the markers, I think, that he has now, but the shot has looked stable since having that one spike year in Washington. He'll come and go in certain times, but I think he's a credible, good volume shooter, and just the ability to get to the line, the ability to create offense. I do think the one growth area that will kind of probably keep him from being regular all-star versus what he is now, when they're good and we're looking for a representation or a spot on the all-star team, depending on how they're figuring it out in a given year. I think it's just creating offense in the half court versus those just barrel down the lane transition buckets, and he's so good doing that. but he's been awesome. Like to basically create a star level player out of nothing, out of a trade that I think was panned at the time for what they gave up, like is kind of remarkable. It doesn't happen nowadays.
Yeah, I did not like the trade. I was like, I just don't get it. I was like, I think Deni Avdija is good, but I have no idea why the Blazers chose to make this trade at the time. And now, a year and whatever, 100 games into the Deni Avdija experience, is like, yeah, this is the best player on their team, and like, and he's because of injuries, he's become not only the best player on the team, but like the ball in your hands, like offensive guider, right? Like, you mentioned the half court stuff, and I do think that is a struggle for him because his best skill is just get the ball on the move in his right hand, put his left shoulder into you. He's too strong. He's too big. He's too fast. He can finish all the way at the rim. If you stop him early from the rim, he'll do that little like sweeping James Harden style pickup from a low dribble and just throw his hands into you, throw his body into you, get to the foul line. Like he's even with his flaws, he's become a really good offensive player. And for me, the playmaking jump has been really, really, really useful for them. He's averaging a career high 5.4 assists. His previous career high 3.9 last year. A lot of that is a role, right? He just is getting to be the guy who sets that up. But he was also just like kind of a turnover machine last year. He was for his position, one of the highest turnover guys in the league, and he remains a dude who turns the ball over a lot. Don't get it twisted. But with this huge jump in usage, he's 97th percentile for forwards among cleaning the glass. Like he's a do everything forward for the Blazers. His turnover rate has dropped. His assist percentage has climbed. He's doing more and making more plays and making less mistakes. And like you said, the shooting is there. I think now that they're not playing as much crazy press defense, that him and his sort of natural, secondary, tertiary defender type looks good on defense. He's been really good. And for folks who like say, what is this trade into a microphone? Like there's some bad takes out there for folks who maybe did pan the trade. I guess like this feels like, does this feel sustainable to you? Like, does this level of Deni seem like an 82 game thing? Where are you at with that?
I think so, because just look at the kind of means for success. We're talking about power, we're talking about transition, we're talking about good defense, we're talking about good shooting. Like these are all things that he's replicated in the past. And like even from last season to this season, it just feels like he's doing more of it and he's doing better at it. I think the things that are like he has to work on are frankly the high level star type stuff, like the absolute upper crust of the league stuff, which is like not even creating an offense in the half court, but like breaking guys off the dribble, not using power, but using skill and just like handle, which is not type, but we have to remember this is a guy who can also guard centers. And so like if he can get to that, like we're talking about some of the best players in the league. I also think that he has also probably hasn't benefited from the lack of flow that's been there, because he and Tumani definitely had something last year, but you saw getting a guy like Drew who plays the same way just brings out the best in all three of them, and the ball just pings and moves and they're just making so many smart plays within the flow of the game. Drew not being there, it has lacked there. When you have someone like, a Caleb Love or like one of the two guys getting in there, it does disrupt things in a way that I think affects him more than probably anyone too. I think his offense has suffered a lot from this as well. So like, I almost wonder when they get the full complement of guys again, like, can we actually start tricking up in terms of like getting better from here?
Yeah, I think like to your point, like the best version of Deni probably has worse counting stats. Like he doesn't average 25 and like 6 times or whatever it is, 5.5 assists, but he might be more efficient and he might be more effective, just like doing a little bit less. Like it's a team sport. He needs his teammates to be better. Shaedon Sharpe has been really inefficient, and I think that has hurt them a little bit in terms of like just flow in the half courts. But yeah, I think like I'm with you on that. There's probably maybe even more from Deni in terms of what he can be, just because he hasn't played with the players that perfectly complement him. Like, no disrespect to the two-way guys, but like a drive, draw two in the paint, kick to Sidi Sissoko in the corner is just like, I don't know. It's not an ideal choice, right? It's not an ideal, even like drive, kick, throw it back to Chris Murray, who's filling in behind you, right? It's like, if you pay if he were to get on a team, or even if just they got healthy and they could maximize some of their off-ball guys, if you can play him with Jeremy Grant, and you can play him with Jrue Holiday, and you can play him with Tumani Kamara, who's shot a lot better since a cold start to the season, maybe just surrounding him with more complementary parts is like the thing that really takes him there. And I think you mentioned the sort of the operating. He's like a good pick and roll player, and the numbers suggest that he's like an awesome pick and roll player. But to my eyes, there's more there. What have you seen in terms in that like creation stuff? Is he capable of making really high level reads in the pick and roll, or like where is he with that stuff? Like in the true like give me the ball and it runs through me type of star stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say he's seeing things that even like the top superstars in the league aren't. Like, I don't feel like he's just like such a natural creator that he can make something just Jokic level out of nothing. Few players are, but like you see these guys that just like see these holes like 4 ways in advance. I don't think he's at that point, but he's a very good playmaker who's going to make the right read and the right pass. And I think that's important. And I think it also speaks to this idea of not having not only the full complement of guys, but this is a team really built as a collective. And I think that was really borne out when they started trotting out those 5-wing lineups. I think it worked to everyone's benefit, not only because defensively is it just like a terror squad where it's just like 5 big wings who can move and are physical. And then that's probably speaking to your earlier point about the defense, like trot that lineup up a little bit more regularly. And like that could be not a death lineup, but at the very least, like you're in the hospital for a couple days after it. I also think it brings out the best of their offense because the way the flow like helps everybody. It seems like all of these wings are good, but not elite at passing, at creating, whatever. But like as a collective, even with Thibault, who's just like a very smart, intuitive player, it all starts to work in concert. Yeah. But that's where it's so disappointing that we haven't seen that in like a couple of weeks now, because I do think all powers combined, this could be good, but you start like pieces aren't available, and all of a sudden you're like, well, you need Deni to be a true blue superstar. I don't know if he's that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that lineup that you mentioned with it was Jrue Holiday, Matisse Thybulle, Deni, Tumani Kamara, and Jeremy Grant. That group rocked. That group rocked.
It was fun.
Yeah. I hope they're able to get back to it and play it in 15, 20, 25 games at some point for like with like a real sustainable, because it's just like it's who they want to be. They want to be physical and flying around. Tiago Splitter's whole thing is that the speed creates open shots. Like that's his belief, is that like you might not be able to do it with a bunch of elaborate movements, and you might not be able to do it because of the skills you have, but if you play with pace and the ball moves and you move, you'll get good shots out of it. And I think they've typically generated that, and I think Deni has benefited from that style a bunch as well. But it's just like, how about that style with the right players and the right type of defense that like lets you get out and run, and then there's even more. Let's talk Shaedon Sharpe. Because he's been fine, but he hasn't been good. And fine is, the Blazers need more than fine. Let's talk about that to close the show. Join us there, won't ya? First, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by DripDrop. When you are hydrated, everything works better. Your focus, your energy, your mood, even your skin. That's why you got to check out DripDrop. It is doctor-developed hydration that keeps you running at full power no matter what your day looks like. DripDrop is not your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula by medical professionals, used by medical professionals, and trusted by medical professionals, as well as firefighters and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I get the juicy pack. It is the variety pack sent to my house, and then I'm rocking my go-to flavors are really fruit punch and strawberry lemonade, but they're all pretty darn good. And hydration has become a non-negotiable for me, and DripDrop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly just better overall. Hydration is a game changer, and DripDrop helps you change the game. Right now, DripDrop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. So if you're listening to this, go get 20%. It was 20% off your first order. Go to DripDrop.com and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's DripDrop.com, and the code is LOCKEDONNBA. for 20% off. Stock up now so you can get your hydration game right and keep your body and mind performing at their best with DripDrop. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Still chatting here with Justin Verrierr of The Ringer. Justin, Shaedon Sharpe's been prolific. He's done a lot of things, maybe not a lot of them at a high level. Give me your worry concern on like a 1 to 5. How worried are you about Shaedon Sharpe after 18 games?
I guess it depends on where the expectations are. If everyone is still expecting him to be the superstar, like offensive juggernaut of a title contending team, I got some bad news from you. I personally do not see it anymore. And I think after 4 years, I know the injuries have definitely derailed him at various times, but I'm left a little cold overall on the Shaedon experience. It's so disappointing in part because his athleticism is so fluid in a way that like not even the best athletes in the world are. Like this guy literally floats through the air, like the blocks on 3-point shooters we saw, what was it, 2 years ago or even his rookie years, is just like, that's just stuff that guys can't do. And so the bar is very high for him. But I would say like at this point, some of the things we assumed would be his strengths just haven't been. Like his shot form just looks picturesque, and you'd assume like just given his leaping ability, he would be able to be just a knockdown shooter at worst. And the fact that he's trending down, not up, is a huge concern as far as I'm concerned. And so, and I also think like if you're going to more of a flow-based offense, which we've talked about at length at this point, like it seems like that isn't his like brand. Like it doesn't seem like he's particularly suited for that because it's all intuitive stuff. And you've seen him score at his best when he's been more intentional, where they've been like, Shaedon, go like take advantage of these mismatches and we'll just spam you downhill for 5 minutes. And it's worked at times, but it just feels like you have to break so much from what they're doing. And traditionally that's what you do with the 6 man. And so I'm not closing the door because as we've seen, like he just has the tools if he's willing to use them, if he can like tap into them in certain ways. But I'm dubious that, like this is the guy. And if he's not the guy, like the conversation starts to get pretty bleak pretty quickly.
Yeah. My concern is probably, like you said, it's like so much about where your expectations started. I did not think this was like an all-star MVP level player. Certainly not an all-star this season. Good basketball player, good scorer. The finishing was really, really good last year. I thought he took steps as a playmaker, although that's not his sort of natural fit. But like, the volume that like he's 21st overall in the league in usage for cleaning the glass, and that includes playmaking, which I think is a better sort of measurement of usage because passing the ball if you dribble the whole possession and set up someone for an assist, that's also a pretty good measurement of like how many possessions you actually use. But among those 24 players, only 4 players have a worse true shooting percentage than Shaedon Sharpe. D'Angelo Russell, which is like Shaedon Sharpe is hyper athletic. D'Angelo Russell, Ja Morant, kind of a nightmare season for him. LaMelo Ball, just can't get right, and Trae Young, and like you look at that group, and if Sharpe is in that group, and like Morant was awesome at a certain point, and obviously Melo made an all-star team at 22. Trae Young made the conference finals before his 23rd birthday, I believe, 24th birthday, I believe. So like, those players have been effective, but there is for a premium creator, you just need a higher level of efficiency than Sharpe has been, and the shooting, like you mentioned, is troublesome. I'm probably like a 2 overall concern because I think if he can ever get his body right, there were moments this year when the finishing was back on the level and he was like doing his strengths were strong again. The weaknesses are another conversation. If he's a non-shooter, it really does change what he can be. But I do think there's a world in which he's like a dude who crushes inside the arc. I wonder, and I'll ask you on this, like he's had the ball in his hands a bunch. Again, like a 30% usage, the highest on the team. Like, is he an off-ball guy? Like, is that the trick? Is like just run him off pin downs? Like, is having him be the primary up top, like maybe just the leading into some of this?
Yeah, so more late career Ray Allen than early career Ray Allen, essentially. Maybe, but that pathway is so much harder than it is to just like get by with the ball in your hands every time making things happen, because at the very least there's a longer leash in terms of like within a possession you being able to feel things out and like kind of like work your magic, whereas it's really like streamlined hardo stuff where it's like you're running all game. You are running hard off of screens. You're trying to set things up constantly. You're really engaged and plugged into what's going on. Like the JJ Redicks of the world, the Ray Allens, all those guys work their asses off like regularly. And I think that I don't know if Shea's necessarily a poor worker, but at the very least, like he's a sleepy sort of guy, you know? Like part of the thing is he just does not have that dog in him, dare I say, in the way that like Scoop, for instance, has it. And so is he going to want to be that guy, especially considering you've suggested that his talent is like of the level of a superstar? We'll give you an opportunity to be that, to downshift to that is a very hard thing to do just on a personal level, let alone on a basketball level.
Yeah, it's a weird, they're in a weird balance with him, right? Because they kind of need him to be better, but maybe do less. And that is a weird place to be with a young player, right? And he struggled this to the point this year where it was like at the beginning of the year, coming off the season that Jeremy Grant had the prior year, where he just like couldn't make 2-pointers and just like was awful. It was like, if Shaedon Sharpe doesn't start over Jeremy Grant, this is a mistake by the organization. And now we're like 20 games into this thing, and it's like Jeremy Grant's better than Shaedon Sharpe, and he should play more than him. And I think that is a weird balance for the franchise. I also think it's hard to imagine that this team has a high level ceiling without a pretty darn good version of Shaedon Sharpe. I think it's not like he needs to be a star, but he needs to be better than he's been probably for them to be real, like truly competitive with like a long-term timeline of being competitive, not like a one season Kings burst. Now I don't mean to curse the Blazers to be the Kings. I'm sorry, dear listeners. You're 30 minutes into the show, and I just did a Kings comparison. That's my bad, y'all. I didn't mean it like that. But to have those one-off years, let's try it again. Kind of like one-off years, like the Hawks, like that one Hawks run. I don't exactly know what to do with him, but I do know this relative to the other options. Would I rather have Caleb Love shoot bricks or Shaedon Sharpe shoot bricks? That's an easy one for me. Give me 27 minutes of Shaedon Sharpe figuring it out. Like I think relative to their other options, Sharpe still needs to be a huge part of the plan. But I think we're talking about broader expectations when we talk about this team. Let's close up here. Mm-hmm. Cup team. The Blazers have been a pretty impressive Cup team when the big lights are on and those colorful courts get rolled out. No team rises to the occasion except for the time that they got walloped by the Rockets. But other than that time that they lost by 30 in Houston, they've risen. They beat the Nuggets. They handled the Warriors and wouldn't let them come back. This evening, as the show comes out, we are recording a little beforehand, but this evening they play the Spurs. Give me your thoughts. Are the Blazers a team that is destined for Vegas?
I think they're built Cup strong, is what I'd say. And I think it's also helpful that the Spurs are walking into Portland without a couple of their guys, one of whom is Victor Wembanyama. The other one is Stephon Castle, who might be one of the breakthrough stars of the season thus far. And so the opportunity is there. I would say De'Aaron Fox being a former clutch player of the year is really like the what you have to get through. And so we have Cup strong versus clutch player of the year. Like it's a real collision course of clutchness, I would say. So we'll see. But I got to say, I think they're kind of favorites here. And you might have to be booking your trip to Vegas, not only to ride the ponies or to like go hit the tables, but to see the mighty Portland Trailblazers in that environment.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of Portland media is going to go nuts gambling in Vegas based on what has happened this season. Not a great time to be like in Vegas playing poker, gonna win some money. Just kidding. I don't have connections. I can't get into an illegal poker game. I got to go to the normal ones and lose my money. I think. I think they're going to be. I haven't looked at it as of this record, but like I think they're going to be favored. And if they beat the Spurs, they're in. They win and they're in. You obviously don't. You're not immediately in Vegas. You got to keep on winning to get there. But yeah, I think it adds a little bit of fun to this season because they've won the right games. And while clutch player and the NBA Cup are both completely fake things, they are the NBA Cup's got a little juice. So I when we're in the building tomorrow evening and we're watching the Blazers play on their resplendent Cup court, I think there'll be some excitement in the building. And it's also a classic night to drink a lot of alcohol with people you went to high school with. So if you're back in town, shout out to all the Portland people back in town seeing their old high school friends. friends, you can come see a Cup game before you go do that. Justin, if people are looking for more of your stuff, where can they find it?
Group chat on the Ringer NBA Show Network. It's pretty much all I'm doing these days. Don't follow me on social media. It's very lame and sporadic. So yeah, let's just stick to the podcasting.
Yeah, group chat Sundays and Wednesdays, Ringer Podcast Network. You know where to find it. It's everywhere. It's on video because podcasts are television shows now. Justin, it's always a treat. I'll see you in a few hours. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you for Cup nights at the Moda Center. Dear listeners, come back for more shows later this week. We're talking Spurs recap on Thanksgiving in your feeds, because I know what you're going to want to do before or maybe after you eat a big meal is listen to me talk about basketball. We'll have another show for you on Friday, 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I will talk to you soon.